Did you know that about a quarter of Black women ages 18 to 30 have fibroids? And did you know that by the time we are 35, that number can increase to as much as 60%? Come on in, girl. Let's talk about it. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Gift of Gab. I'm your host, Gab, and today we have a very, very special guest who comes by way of connection. Let me tell you something. Connection is everything in this world, okay? And I'm just super grateful for the people who have just connected me to wonderful, wonderful resources, and I'm happy to have one here today. Let me go down the list of accolades for this young lady, y'all, okay? Because listen, multi-hyphenate, multi-things. Let's just go. So I have the pleasure of having a teacher, an entrepreneur, a fashion curator, a wellness influencer, a photographer, princess of press on, because yes, we got to have a conversation about that, and an advocate. We have Miss Erica Brooks. Welcome to the show, Erica. How are you?
I'm doing well. Today is a wonderful day, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Listen, y'all, I just want to say I am over here. I popped my button on these pants before we started, so I got a little safety pin in here. So if y'all hear something pop, just keep going. It's
Keep
me
it
over.
moving. Keep it moving.
But thank you so much for joining me today. Um, a friend that connected us, I'd like to call her a friend at this point. She's just been phenomenal. That connected us, just, said, hey, I think this young lady has a story to tell. And, prior to this meeting, you and I had a chat, and you do have such just a phenomenal story to tell about something that affects millions of Black women, right? And that's
Yeah.
fibroids. Upon just kind of doing a little research, I mean, I've heard of fibroids, right? Like, I come from a line of Black women. So
hmm
I've heard the Black women in my family talk about having fibroids, but I really just never took that deep dive into what fibroids is and how Black women are massively affected. So before we jump in, tell us about who Erica is outside of fibroids. Tell us who you are.
Well, outside of fibroids, I have a lot going on. As you mentioned, I am a content creator, photographer, fashion stylist, wellness advocate, all of these things. I just love being a creative. I love the arts. I love connecting with people. And through my platform, America Be Style Me, I've been able to do just that. So not only foster a community of like-minded women, but also just to inspire them from my own experiences, be it through fashion or style, through photography and what I capture in my lens, and just through my wellness journey through like fitness and mental health and all of those things combined.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's dive into your fibroid journey. So before you knew you had fibroids, right?
hmm
Talk to me about how your health was overall. What was going on with your body, with your spirit, just the essence of Erica before having what I'm sure probably ended up being a diagnosis. But
hmm
what was happening?
A lot was happening. I suffered from quite a few symptoms. So every symptom you could imagine, if you look down the list of fibroid symptoms or just symptoms for PMS and for your cycle, um, I suffered from every single one, and I didn't know what month what symptoms I was going to have a specific month. So let's say, June is coming up. It could be anything from nausea to um, severe cramps, back pain, all of those things just encompass my life. And it took a toll on me mentally and also physically. So a lot of people think, oh, you're just in pain for 5 days and you get over it. Well, no, I was anxious leading up to my cycle because I didn't know what to expect when it did come on. I didn't know what to expect even the week prior. So you know how you have your cycle a specific week, and the week prior you have PMS symptoms that kind of lead and alert you to um, having your cycle, the one thing that I hated the most was the nausea. And early on, or earlier, before 40s and early in my 20s, late 20s, I would say early 30s, I used to be like, whoa, like, is this nausea from the cycle, or like, am I expecting? So those similar symptoms, they go hand in hand. So you're like, I don't know what's going on. So the nausea was the one thing that, to this day, I just do not wish upon anybody, because it's one thing to, you know, have to let it out, but it's another thing to just have that feeling and you just can't do anything about it. And that's like for a whole week straight.
So, I mean, I just remember back, I got my period very early. And I remember the unbearable cramps I experienced as a girl, right?
Yes.
And I was told the same thing. Like, it's just like 5, 7 days, you'll be fine after that. That's what the women around me were saying. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just get over it. But that's not normal.
It's
That
not.
is that is not normal at all. And that is a sign that something is wrong. So
Right.
were you having, what was mom saying, or your caretaker, right? Whoever
Mm-hmm.
was your guardian at that time, what were they saying to you? And were you telling them like, hey, this, like, I'm in pain, I'm really nauseous? What were they saying to you?
Yes, so it was mom. Mom was the caretaker, and she did everything she could to make me comfortable because she experienced the same thing as well. So my cycle started, I want to say, about 14. So I was going to school, and as soon as it came on, I was going home the same day because I would literally have to crawl to the bathroom, sit in the office or in like the clinic or with a nurse, school nurse, until someone came to get me. I think my mom did her best. And
Yeah.
with that, she just knew it was, drink hot tea, have a heating pad, take your meds or, some kind of painkiller, stretch and try to move your body as much as you can. So those common remedies that we are taught at home, um, or we're taught from just common knowledge or just passed down from generations, that's all she knew. Going to the doctor, it was, take birth control to regulate your cycle. That didn't help. And it was I went from a high dose to a low dose to a patch to something that they insert. Like, I've tried it all, done
Yeah.
everything. And nothing worked. And the fibroid symptoms or fibroid diagnosis didn't come until I was of age to advocate for myself, because I really didn't know that's what it was causing it. A lot of times, there are very similar symptoms between PCOS and fibroids. And you have to get a diagnosis before they do any kind of medical treatment or rectify the situation or provide a solution.
So, and I wanna take a second to talk about some of the signs that I read about online. Y'all, this
Mm-hmm.
was a quick Google search that I highly recommend. That if you miss this in this conversation, or you just want to make sure I have an exhaustive list, go Google it. Go Google it, because this is a sign that something needs attention, right? I don't want to say that something's wrong, but you need the attention of a medical provider. So,
Mm-hmm.
a few that I found were heavy or prolonged periods, pelvic pain or pressure, frequent urination, abdominal bloating or enlargement, pain during sex, lower back pain, and constipation. And one I did not know about was vomiting. So that's why, I'm saying to the listeners, go look for a more exhaustive list. There may be
Right.
things that I didn't catch, that maybe Erica didn't experience, that are indicative of you need to see a medical professional. Um, so how did this, because you got your cycle at 14, you started having the symptoms. How
Mm-hmm.
were you affected as a young girl? Of course, not knowing exactly what was going on, but how did that interfere with your life as a child?
It was hard. I was a dancer, so I did ballet, tap, jazz. In high school, I was in the magnet program for dance, and our dance teacher, she was very strict. So she was like, you're going to have your cycle every month. You just got to deal with it. And I remember I had a friend who took a picture of me on the one of the days like my cycle started, and I was dressed in my dance attire, had my leotard and tights on, but I ended up having to sit out because I was in so much pain. And I wish I could find that picture to this day, but I just remember that moment where I felt horrible. And a lot of times you tell people and they look at you and you may carry your pain or carry your hurt or carry your anxiety well, and they look at you and don't feel like you're really like going through it. But it's just because month after month you feel this way and you're just like kind of sick and tired of dealing with it. So you just put on a good face and just push through. And that's not something that I feel is healthy or I agree with. Um, I remember working in an office setting and I didn't have the most considerate boss, and he was a male, of course. Well, he, but as a male, I think that he wasn't as understanding because he didn't feel what I was going through. And it took me having to sit in the office with the garbage can next to me with a heating pad and a blanket for another coworker to tell him, like, you need to send her home. She's not okay.
Yeah,
So, it's not to exaggerate the pain or the symptoms, but it's to bring awareness to what women go through because it's not okay. We still, just as women in general, I feel like we have to push through, put on a good face, and just say we're okay, even with something as simple as a mild headache. And that
that's
headache can affect our mood and can affect our day, but we still, make the best of it. But with fibroids, I don't think you should have to make the best of it because you're going through so much and your body is kind of changing.
absolutely. I think with any pain, right, that like you need to just go slow down for a second. And I think it's
I
multi-layered
agree.
as a black woman, right? Like as in a human experience, it's like there's pain medicine, get over it. Everybody got pain, you'll be okay. And then there's this, as a woman, you gotta like stand up for yourself and just not miss out on things and be strong and power through it. Then you add that extra layer of a black woman and you got to be a strong black woman on top of that. That's
Right.
just past the mental part, right? It's also physical. You
It
were
is.
there dealing with a pain that, you got a male boss who is like, you'll be fine. And I want to say, because I've had some lady bosses that are like, well, Gabrielle, I get
So
a
true.
period every month too. And I'm like, but homegirl, you ain't got going on what I got going on. And,
Exactly.
or maybe you handle it much better than me because I'm a wimp.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So maybe that's what it is. But I can appreciate, what I will say is I can appreciate your colleague recognizing that you were in pain and advocating for you. That is something that we have to do more of.
Right.
We need more of, because sometimes, you need a backup. You need a backup to say like, no, this is real and she needs to be supported through this. So shout out to that colleague.
And it was a
Um,
guy, by the way.
it was a guy.
A guy.
Oh, we love a gentleman. We love a gentleman at Gift of Gab. Yes. So shout out to you, sir. Um, so one of the things that you mentioned was that your diagnosis did not come until you were of age. What age, or around what age were you?
I was 40. That was a year ago.
Wow.
Just recently. I spent 12 hours in the ER,
Mm-hmm.
and I waited because they did so many tests from kidney stones, and I had kidney stones before, and I told them that was not it.
Yeah.
And this was after me going to the emergency room because I passed a large clot.
Right.
And that was kind of a warning sign for me, like, this is not okay. Once again, this is a symptom that kind of triggered me that I needed. It was a very clear warning to get the help that you need, advocate for yourself, and do what needs to be done. And I think being of age, it made me more self aware that, I just needed to speak up for myself. And I couldn't, even though my mom was there with me at the time and I love her dearly and I'm thankful for her, I still had to speak up for myself because I had to make sure that I could clearly express what was going on with my body. I could clearly tell them, like, this is what I need you to do for me, you know? So yeah, that was just a year ago. And they went through a series of tests. They ruled out three other things. And they finally, I think it was a relief to finally see my discharge papers say that it was fibroids.
I was just about to ask you, like, how did you feel? What, like, did that give you some reassurance or some
I
vindication? Like, I
cried.
knew something was going on and I have a
Yes,
name.
I cried. I cried. I literally sat there kind of in shock and awe, and the tears just started falling because I was like, finally, I have proof, that
Mhm.
I'm not just, being over exaggerating or, um, just saying something or, just have a reason for what I'm going through. I literally have proof. And now this is the first step. I feel like I accomplished the first step to take to get a solution or to rectify the problem that I
And if you know me, you know I'm such a big Golden Girls fan.
had.
I'm gonna age myself a little bit. Like I wasn't around when it came out, but I, I'm such a big Golden Girls fan. And
Mhm.
I remember an episode where Dorothy had something going on with her body, right? And she went to so many doctors, and every doctor was just like, "Oh, you're aging. Like, get over it, deal with it." Until finally, she got to this doctor who said, "No, this is a real thing. There's a name for it. There's a science behind it." And I remember her just feeling like she could exhale in that moment,
Mhm.
right? And it just
Mhm.
reminds me, like I know that was fictional, but it just reminds me or just puts me in a place to empathize with you because I imagine the resources that it takes, the time that it takes, the emotional, physical, mental toil that it takes on you to have to first be in pain and then work through or past the pain to advocate for yourself. That
Mhm.
is just, let me just say that is powerful. Of course, by you advocating for yourself, I'd like to think that that opened the door for doctors, whoever you came in contact with, to start being more open to young women, especially young Black women, coming in and saying, "Hey, something doesn't feel right." Right.
Right.
So maybe that's included a little bit earlier in their testing when Black women come in and talk about they are experiencing some type of pain there. So thank you, absolutely thank you. And I know that as a kid, we go to doctor's offices with parents and we don't really feel like we have the room to talk. So
Right.
learn that behavior as you grow older, you just kind of like, just let the doctor tell me what the doctor gonna tell me. But you
Mhm.
take a stand for yourself. So
Yeah.
good for you. So you got this diagnosis a year ago. Um, what was the journey like after you got the diagnosis? So, how did you, if you're comfortable with talking about it, what was the
Yeah.
journey like from, what, I got this diagnosis. Now I need to go find a way to either like totally get rid of this problem or make it more manageable.
So after the diagnosis, there's a series of appointments that I went through. The first was to go to my gynecologist,
Okay.
and that's where I thought I was gonna kind of hit a pause, but I'm glad that things went over smoothly. Once again, I had to advocate for myself, and I remember the conversation we had. We literally sat there, and I was explaining everything to her, and she was just like, "Well, you're not married. Well, she's like you're single, and you don't have kids, and there are options." I said, "Listen, let me stop you right here and explain myself. Let me explain to you the pain so you can understand." And I kind of went
Right.
into detail. One of the things I was taught is to know your body, keep track of things that happen. So I pulled out my phone and I'm like, I have a list, and this month on this date, this is how I felt. These are my symptoms. The pain was 20 out of 10. The month prior, these are my symptoms. I couldn't go to work. I had to call out sick for this day, and just explain everything in detail. And I was like, I'm coming to you to help you, to ask you to understand why I need a solution for this problem, why this is happening, what can, what can we do about it? And when I stopped her and she looked up at me, she was then more expressive. I feel like she was more understanding and she really came up with solutions. So we went from, oh, possibly birth control, which was, it's always the first thing that I feel like they throw at you, to these are the three types of surgeries that you can have in order to remove the fibroid. And one of them was I can't remember the name of it. I have to look at my notes, but one of them was a surgery where it's possible that, when they do the surgery, it could affect you from, if you didn't want to, if you wanted to have kids. So they don't recommend that. And I was like, ma'am, I'm 40. Like, let's just, let's be for real at this point. But I told her, I said, I'm at the place in my life where I'm okay with that. So I
Yeah.
said, you can give me the options and we can go from there. So once she gave
Yeah.
me the option, she told me about each surgery. I then had a referral to the doctor who actually did the surgery. Well, prior to that, I'm sorry, before that, I had to have an ultrasound to see the amount of fibroids I have, where they were positioned, and to make sure like nothing else was going on in my body. So from that initial gynecologist appointment,
Mhm.
then I had my ultrasound appointment, and they do two types of ultrasounds. So they do a pelvic ultrasound, and they do one where they do like on your stomach. The
Okay.
technical terms I probably should have had a note on because I'm drawing a blank now, but
Be technical at all. So give me the generic one, okay?
generic. So yeah, they do one like on your stomach. So they do
Okay.
one that's on your stomach, kind of surface level, and then they do a pelvic exam where they insert a wand to see
Okay.
where your fibroids were.
Mhm.
So the technician that I had, she was telling me, you know, she was really like doing a lot of probing to find a position, and she was like, I think it's one on your back. And from when she said that, and she where I felt like she was probing, I knew exactly where it was and what was making me have severe back pain. So that was like another check off the list, another breath of fresh air because they're pinpointing exactly where the fibroids are, which is telling me exactly where I'm having the most pain. And it's like, this is really what's causing me all of this pain during my cycle. So that was just like a whoa moment. Like, are you kidding me? Because I felt like the exact area she pushed on, and I was like, that's exactly where I have pain. So that was just like out of this world. So after I had that appointment, she referred me to the doctor to do the surgery. And from there it was smooth sailing. Um which I was shocked about because I didn't want to think negatively. I always want to have a positive outlook. But I was like, God, I just need this to happen and happen quickly. And the timing
Yeah.
was impeccable because once I saw the surgical doctor and
Mhm.
he was like, yep, let's do it. Like the appointment was like 5 minutes literally. He asked me
Wow.
about the pain, where it was. He did his own examination. He asked me which surgery that I was looking to do, and I talked to him about it. He was like, yep, I think that's fine. That's perfect for you. The same day, I talked to one of the coordinators, and I was able to schedule my appointment. And the appointment I scheduled was literally the Tuesday after school ended last year. So
Oh, that's perfect.
it was perfect. And let me tell you how perfect it was. The alignment was crazy because I had it June 11th and I
Mhm.
had 2 weeks to recover right before summer school. So I
Oh,
had exactly 2 weeks, which is the technical, like that's technically the recovery time that they suggest, just for you to be able to get on your feet and move. And I had exactly 2 weeks to recover before I got the call to go to summer school and work. So it just
won't he do
only will. Like God's
it?
timing was amazing. It was amazing.
That oh man, that was divine timing. That's
It
how
was.
you know you were doing the right thing for yourself in the right time.
Yes.
And that just I am so glad. So how do you feel now? How do you feel now monthly and what's going on?
I feel good now. So the first cycle I had, that was a shocker. So everyone that's had the surgery or had something similar, they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be great. Everything's fine." I'm here to. This is a public service announcement that
Yeah.
everybody is different. So coming out of surgery, that was my. This was my first time under anesthesia, my first surgical procedure. I have never had anything since then, and I was very nervous, very anxious about it. Even though I prayed and I just asked God to just cover me, I still had a bit of anxiety going in as my first surgery. Coming out of surgery, it was like, girl, what is this? Get me out of here. Like, y'all ain't tell me it was gonna be like this. Somebody call somebody and tell them to help me. It was just the pain, I guess, of all of the things that went into it, and it took me a while to just recover from the anesthesia and be okay. I left the same day, but it did take me a little longer to just like get through the feeling of being under the anesthesia and just like coming to terms with the surgery's over, you're okay, you can go home now.
Yes.
But the healing process, I just want to shout out to my family and friends. They made it seamless. I'm thankful that I had my aunt and my uncle to, allow me to be with them. They catered to me. I didn't have to lift a finger. My cousins, my aunts, my sister, my mom, people came to visit me. It was a blessing, and it's a blessing to have that. As a single woman with no kids, to have the familial support, it meant the world to me. And I think everyone should at least have someone, to look out for them, because even though I was able to care for myself as far as like cleansing my body and putting on my
Yeah.
clothes, I still had them helping and aiding and making sure I was okay. And as someone that's independent and self sufficient, it still meant a lot because I
Yeah.
needed that. Sometimes you feel so, like you said, you're a strong woman, you're empowered. I live by myself, I'm good. You still need someone to look out for you, someone to make sure you're okay.
So important. And shameless plug for myself, we did an episode on community. And this is why, because your community, you need your
So that,
community. And shout out to the people who definitely supported you during this time. That is just, it is just, it's always, to me, it's always so humbling when I'm in a position where I need my community and they show up. And I'm
yes,
like, for me? Y'all
right,
showed up for me? Like, I don't
right. It
care
is a good
how
feeling.
small, how many times. I'm just always so grateful and humbled by the community that shows up for me. So shout out to our communities out there.
Yes, thank
So
y'all.
now that you have your diagnosis, you have your surgery, you're feeling better, you've decided to advocate for women who have been in your same position.
Yes.
Why? What drove that in you? What made you just not go like, you know what, I'm good now? Y'all figure it out too. What made you say, no, I gotta stand up and advocate for the other girls who are going through this?
To go back to what you said about community, I started sharing tidbits leading up to my surgery about like my cycle and how I was feeling, and I think just the cycle I had right before my surgery was bad, and I shared about me being in the hospital, and I did it on my story instead of my main page, just because it's a little more close knit. You just don't feel like you're just putting your business out there, something I'm trying to work through. But it was the amount of response that I got, not only from women who were younger than me that were feeling the same way, they had the same cycles. They were scared to speak up and tell their doctor, how they were feeling, or they shared it and all they said was, take birth control, or you're still young. If you want to have kids, you need to do this. Um, it was hearing those words and the messages and seeing how people were feeling that I knew I had to speak up and do some and say something and do something about it. Um, and I always wanted to encourage, I've always wanted to inspire other women with everything I did, or everything I do rather. But it was really to encourage women to advocate for themselves in not just this area of life, but all areas. to speak up for themselves because I haven't always done so. Sometimes you let things get swept under the rug. Sometimes you just kind of fall back because you don't want to seem like that girl, and people will say, "Oh, you're mean," or no, I'm being very direct and I'm being very clear about my feelings and they matter. And it's not just about health; it could be about relationships or business in the workspace, just all type of things. Advocate for yourself because if you don't, no one else will. They'll just, you push it to the side and it won't be important to them. But if it's important to you, you should speak up about it. And that's why I wanted to use my voice.
And we are so grateful to have you on Gift of Gab
Thank
to share
you.
your journey, to use your voice to, advocate for women here and tell women, tell the Gift of Gab audience that keep going until you get an answer, a real answer, right? And I also heard throughout this conversation, don't just take the first thing that somebody throws at you, because I will say my lived experience has also been anytime I've felt something like I have adult acne. I've had acne all my life. I don't know when it became adult, but it is still there. So, the first thing that every doctor wants to do is, oh, you got to take birth control. And let me just say, my own experience with figuring out which birth control worked and didn't work,
Right.
that in itself was a whole other battle on top of the battle, right?
It is.
So,
Yes.
learning to not take the first answer that somebody gives to you, say, hey, listen, I've tried that before.
Doesn't
No,
work.
we
Hmm.
got to figure out something else. And if you don't get it one place, go somewhere else. Try
Exactly.
somebody. That's also some of the things that I hear from you, as you spoke about this topic. So I just cannot express how very grateful I am to have you come on, allow Gift of Gab to be a vessel to share your journey,
Thank you.
and to just, like give some woman out there like a blueprint, right? Like this may
Right.
not be your exact formula, your exact situation, but here is an idea of how you can get from here to there. And I am so appreciative of that. Do you have any resources that you'd like to share with the audience that were helpful to you throughout your journey?
Yes. So I always like to tell people to ask friends and family or, someone of that's kind of close knit who they could recommend. A lot of people have good doctor resources. Prior to me finding things out on my own, I had a friend refer me to a doctor. Unfortunately, I think that doctor wasn't covered under my insurance. He was also like maybe 45 minutes away. And not that I wouldn't have taken the drive for, this specific reason. It was more so like, let me figure things out on my own. However, people have resources that are like right in your backyard, or, call up a friend and say, hey, can you recommend a good doctor? This is my issue. You kind of have to be a bit proactive with things of that nature because that'll help you kind of get to the next step. And oddly enough, I went back to a gynecologist that I saw when I was younger. And this was when my mom, I think my, like right after, that pediatrician slash that crossover.
Yeah.
So I remember my mom going to her a while back. So I was just like, I kind of went back to the familiar, but it felt like a safe space for me. Um, Oddly enough, which I feel like was God's alignment as well. One of my coworkers asked me about a doctor, and I remember that doctor being on the list of the ones that were recommended to me. And she's like, "Oh, he's a great doctor. You're gonna love him." So just hearing her give that reassurance to me about the same doctor that she knew performed another surgery for her, that helped. There's a company or a nonprofit organization rather called the White Dress Project. That's another resource. They have women like me who share their stories about fibroids all day. They reposted me recently. They post different stories and share different resources as well on their Instagram page, which is We Can Wear White. In addition to their website, they do also have a conference coming up that I'm trying to attend. I think it's next month. And it's in New York. So it's kind of like where you meet like-minded women and you can kind of connect with them. So if you're skeptical about anything, you can meet with them, and they can, I'm sure, not probably, can definitely offer resources and, just advice and experience in that area.
I, I just can't thank you enough for just your wisdom, your journey. I'm so appreciative of you again. Where can the audience find you to say, hey girl, I heard your story. Thank you. Where can they find you? And all things that are you, your photography, your press on nails. Tell the
I
people where
know
they
we are
can
talking
find you.
shit. So I am at America B Style Me on all platforms. So that's Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. It's America with a K. My photography page is America B Photography, and my press on page is Black Girls Love Press On. In addition, my website is americabstyleme.com. So if you find America B Style Me, it will lead you to all the things.
Perfect, perfect. We love to have repeat guests here on Gift of Gab, so we hope to see you again
I will
soon.
be back
Thank
for
you so
sure.
much for being a part of it. And y'all, I have to just reiterate, especially to Black women, advocate for yourself, speak
Yes,
up for yourself. It
yes,
feels uncomfortable, it feels cringe, it feels foreign, but speak up for yourself. And the way to get past the cringe, the way to get past it feeling foreign is to keep doing it. I don't care if you have to
exactly.
start in a whisper, I don't care if you have to write it down. Speak up for yourself. If
Yes,
you don't look out for you, no one will look out for you. And even if they do, they don't know you. You know your body. And these symptoms, while it may not be Erica's experience with fibroids, there are unfortunately a list of other things out there that they could be. But when you are in excess pain, when you have heavy periods, when those things are not normal, say
yes,
something. Speak up for
yes,
yourself. And for those of us who, like, my whole existence right now is like, oh, I'm almost 40, right? So for those of us who are almost 40, there's another switch that happens, right? As we get closer to 40, like
yes.
I will literally say, like, I'm starting to think about PMDD, and I'm like, Lord, when did I have to start thinking about like premenopause? Like, what? I'm
Girl,
here. So many things. So,
so
ladies, go to
many.
doctors, get your health checked out, and just show up for yourself. And as always, I'm your host, Gab. I love y'all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Till next time.